my name is Emily. I'm 22 years old, a senior at a small liberal arts college in the Midwest. I'm majoring in English literature, and I've always been a bit of a romantic. I love reading about passionate, forbidden love affairs in classic novels. But I never imagined I'd find myself in the middle of one. This is the story of how I fell in love with a married man, and how our affair changed both of our lives forever. It all started last fall. I was working part-time at a local coffee shop to help pay for my tuition. One day, a man walked in who I had never seen before. He was tall, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. He looked to be in his late 30s, maybe early 40s. He ordered a black coffee and sat down at a table near the window, pulling out a laptop and some papers. I couldn't help but notice how focused he was, how intense his presence seemed. Over the next few weeks, he became a regular at the coffee shop. He always came in around the same time, and we started to exchange small talk. His name was Daniel, and he was a lawyer who had recently moved to town for a big case. He was charming, intelligent, and had a way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room when he talked to me. One day, he asked me if I'd like to join him for a drink after my shift. I hesitated for a moment, but something about him drew me in. I agreed, and we went to a quiet bar down the street. We talked for hours that night, about everything from books to politics to our dreams for the future. I felt a connection with him that I had never felt with anyone else. As the weeks went by, we started spending more and more time together. He would come to the coffee shop just to see me, and we would go out for drinks or dinner after my shift. I knew he was married. He had mentioned his wife and son in passing, but I tried not to think about it. I told myself that we were just friends, that there was nothing wrong with spending time with him. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I could feel the chemistry between us, the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. And then, one night, it happened. We were at his apartment, watching a movie, and he leaned in and kissed me. I should have stopped him, should have walked away, but I didn't. I kissed him back, and in that moment, everything changed. After that night, our relationship became more intense. We started seeing each other in secret, sneaking around to avoid being caught. Daniel would tell his wife that he was working late or going out with friends, and I would lie to my roommates about where I was going. It was thrilling, but it was also exhausting. I was constantly on edge, worried that someone would find out about us. Daniel was careful, though. He never let his guard down, never did anything that might raise suspicion. He would delete our text messages and emails, and he always made sure to leave my apartment before dawn. But despite all the precautions, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were living on borrowed time. One night, I asked him about his wife. I had been avoiding the subject, but I needed to know. He told me that they had been married for 15 years, that they had a 10-year-old son together. He said that he loved his family, but that he had fallen out of love with his wife a long time ago. He said that being with me made him feel alive in a way that he hadn't felt in years. I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't help feeling guilty. I knew that what we were doing was wrong, that we were betraying his wife and son. But at the same time, I couldn't imagine my life without him. He had become my everything, and I was willing to risk it all to be with him. As the months went by, our affair became more complicated. Daniel's wife started to suspect that something was going on. She would call him constantly when he was with me, asking where he was and when he would be home. He would make up excuses, but I could tell that she didn't believe him. One night, she showed up at his apartment unexpectedly. I was there, and we had to scramble to hide any evidence of my presence. It was a close call, and it shook both of us. Daniel started to pull away after that, saying that we needed to be more careful. But I could tell that he was also starting to feel the weight of what we were doing. Then, one day, he told me that he couldn't see me anymore. He said that he loved me, but that he couldn't keep lying to his wife and son. He said that he needed to try to make his marriage work for the sake of his family. I was devastated. I had known that this day might come, but I wasn't prepared for how much it would hurt. I begged him to change his mind, to choose me instead, but he wouldn't. He said that he had made a commitment to his family and that he couldn't just walk away from that. After Daniel ended things, I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on my classes. I felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. I knew that I had to move on, but I didn't know how. It took time, but eventually I started to heal. I threw myself into my studies, into my friendships, into anything that would distract me from the pain. I started seeing a therapist who helped me work through my feelings of guilt and heartbreak. I also started to think about what I wanted for my future. I realized that I didn't want to be the other woman, that I didn't want to be with someone who couldn't fully commit to me. I wanted a love that was honest, that was real, that didn't have to be hidden away. It's been a year since Daniel and I ended our affair. I still think about him sometimes, about what might have been if things had been different. But I know that I made the right choice by letting him go. I've learned a lot about myself through this experience, about what I want and what I deserve. And who knows, maybe someday I'll find a love that's even more passionate, even more intense than what I had with Daniel. But this time, I want it to be a love that's out in the open, a love that doesn't have to be hidden, a love that's real. Daniel and I still see each other occasionally, in passing. We're polite, but distant. He's still with his wife, and from what I can tell, they're trying to make their marriage work. I hope they do, for the sake of their son. As for me, I'm focusing on finishing school and starting my career. I've started dating again, but I'm taking things slow. I'm not in any rush to fall in love again. I know that when the time is right, I'll find someone who can give me the kind of love I deserve. Until then, I'm just living my life, one day at a time. And who knows, maybe someday I'll look back on this chapter of my life as just that, a chapter.